Outer Orange.
We're solid. Now, I know you guys probably heard this like 100 times. You guys have probably already heard, you know, like all the tops and stuff like that. But guess what? We're gonna talk about them again because we're gonna talk about it in the Orange channel. We're gonna talk about it again. And you wanna know why? Because I'm freaking in these charts. That's why. That's why we're gonna talk about them. So I went to Rosemont, BCS. I was literally there for all three formats essentially. I wasn't watching premium as much because I was playing standard, but you know, I was there. I was existing. I was doing my thing. So let's go all the way down here. Let's start with premium and kind of work our way up. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. This is Rosemont standard. Well, no, never mind. We got standard too. We got Rosemont standard premium. Oh my gosh, how many times do it? How many charts did you make? How many charts did you? I also got Germany. That's why Germany had tops too. Oh my gosh, we got so much to talk about. Hi. So here's Germany. Because I remember since we're 6 hours behind, we already knew about this like in the middle of our tournament, I guess is the best way to put it. As we were playing our format, this was going on, like our regional, I should say, this was happening. So this is V Premium Germany. Obviously there is a big anomaly. 6 Gear Chronicle, 1 Aquaforce, 1 Grand Blue. Grand Blue one's a ghosty deck actually. Very interesting stuff to see there, but yeah. So Aquaforce still doing its thing, and clearly everything else is just dominating. This one's a little weird. Some people are like, oh, it counters Steam Maidens. I mean, I wouldn't say it counters Steam Maidens. I think it just deals with Steam Maidens pretty well. I wouldn't say it's a counter. The counter is the fact that you can double intercepts for the first couple attacks, and then what? You have a 4-card hand. Not a 4-card hand, but Beatrice does not have a huge hand, so you still need to deal with like the fact that you have 5Ks in your hand like pretty much all the time. The deck does not plus at all. It's all through just straight shield. You curious about the Thavas? Well, Thavas probably did its thing. It went first, beat down, and did its thing. I'm not gonna lie, Thavas is actually a pretty rough matchup into Force. Like just Aquaforce into Force decks is pretty rough, but Aquaforce into non-Force decks is actually pretty good. So top 4 Germany. So here we have Dave Vecht getting first place, and then we have Maidens, and then we have Maxime Jolan, and then we have Maxime Solom for top 4. And as you can see, we got Maiden and randomly Grand Blue here just kind of doing its thing. I will say Ghosty isn't a bad deck by any means. I think actually Ghosty is a really good deck. In some ways, I think Ghosty is actually better than Rose just because of how tanky it is. The downside to Ghosties is that you're very limited on resources. The longer the game goes, the more you get stuck. This deck goes through Counter Blast so much. Like, congratulations everyone, by the way, for doing their thing, for topping and all that stuff. Like a massive congrats. We do see some names. I don't know who this person is, but I do know who these 3 are. I am a little surprised that Ghosties made it as far as they did, but hey, if they saw the right matchups, the deck's really strong. The deck also had a really bad counter matchup, and that was actually Prism, because Prism outgrinded Beatrice. So what happened is that you would just deck out against Prism players. But now with Prism being gone, it makes sense. Oh, it's a friend of yours. Oh, it's really cool. It's really cool. But with Prism being gone, it's actually a little easier to play Beatrice right now. I would actually argue that Beatrice is like a relatively good deck. I don't know if it's better than Rose, because the Rose is very shieldless, but Beatrice isn't, but they both kind of do the same thing. But I would say the countercharging aspect and the CB usage is a lot higher in Beatrice. I think that kind of screws it a little bit. But Beatrice plays the opposite of, funnily enough, Steam Maidens. These 2 decks actually have a very similar mechanic. Germany for standard, which was Gravidia, and we had Philip for 2nd place with Bruce, and we have Dennis, and we have GG Mr. Rogers. Actually, I didn't realize this. I didn't know JJ played. I knew JJ played. I didn't actually realize that JJ topped. And now I'm seeing it here. I gotta like this for myself just so I can go look at this. Let me retweet this too while I'm at it. There we go. That way I'll find it later. But yeah, this is actually pretty cool. I'm really excited to see Orphis go through. We actually had an Orphis player in Rosemont, and they were in top tables for a while, and then they weren't. But since I had a really bad run, I was watching top tables for a couple rounds, so I actually saw Orphis and Zorga in top tables. He really did tackle his way to 2nd. I mean, Bruce is just a really good deck. Like, it just beats face, and it restands and beats face some more. It's also kind of obvious what is dominating. I know in top 4 it's a little bit different, but yeah, we got 4 Narukami, 2 Aquaforce, and 2 Gear Chronicle. Wow, it's like everyone took the best 3 decks and decided to just play. Welcome in, Sabri, and decided to just play the best 3 decks. It's crazy. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that taking the best 3 decks would mean the best 3 decks would top? And here's also top 4. So Dave Vecht took 1st place. So double firsting, by the way, getting 1st place in V and in Premium. Maxime 2nd, double topping, getting 2nd and 4th. And then we also... Oh, we don't have names for these 2. Okay, I guess they're not getting names. Maybe there's another one that's like literally further down. You know what? Y'all know who they are. You think that Aquaforce is overhyped in Premium? I would agree and disagree. I think Ripples is very strong. Is it like so undoubtedly strong as people say it is? Probably not, but it's still a really good deck to take if you want to just like succeed. It does have a very linear game plan. I've talked about it to a couple people who are Aquaforce mains, and they said like the deck is good, but you gotta have like a mission and you just have to accomplish that mission, and that's really all you can do, and you just have to hope that your mission just gets accomplished, and if it doesn't, well then oops, I guess I die. You know, that's kind of how the deck is. It's very linear, very straightforward. It has like one specific game plan. Can't really do much else. I think that's where the not for banning Odie like they are going to do tomorrow. I personally think the Odysseus ban is very justified. I think just having a deck that just spams markers the way that deck does is just degenerate overall. And I don't think it's needed personally. Like, it's not even so much about Odysseus being a Ripples or Ripples being a good deck in Premium or any of that. It's just the fact that you can just gain like 4 Excel markers all because you high rolled into the one card in your deck that you need to high roll into, and they just pop off that way. And then you can Soul Blast and bring it back and do it again. I understand the reasoning to want to ban it. Like, it's very justified in my opinion. I think Excel decks should not be able to farm 4 Excel markers in one turn. I don't think any Excel deck should be able to farm 4 markers in one turn. I don't think any deck should farm 4 markers in one turn. That should just not be a thing. There's a reason why decks get touched. Like, a part of it sometimes is just through marker spam. So you have Rosemont Standard. Let's start here. So here's Rosemont Standard. So I actually watched a lot of these games like a little bit later. I stopped in top 8 actually, but prior to top 8, this Flagberg, one of the Flagberg players, was literally in the first seat for pretty much like 5 rounds in a row. They just never left. I think they just went undefeated the entire thing. And you know, I've been saying for a while that Burger Boat's pretty good, and now currently into the meta that we're in, I actually kind of wish I took Burger Boat. I didn't, because I didn't feel confident in its early game to take it. I'm actually very surprised. I just noticed this. It's grade 4 Magnolia. Gravidia, 2 Flagberg, a Kyrie, the Prison, and we got Magnolia going on here. So Gravidia obviously makes sense. The Prison makes sense. The Magnolia doesn't really make sense. The Kyrie makes sense. But a lot of people might be asking yourselves, why is Flagberg up here? Why did it make it this far? And if you see the top 4 results, which is right around the corner right here, how in the world did this deck get first and second place? Might be another question. And actually, it outbeat Gravidia and Kyrie. So let's talk about this deck for a second. So Flagberg, as you guys know, I've been talking about this deck pretty much since I realized that it's a good deck. And this was back in Magnolia format, when technically Magnolia was like by a smidge better. So Magnolia was like by a smidge better just because it had better shield and better resource management over Flagberg. However, Flagberg was literally right there with it. So Flagberg and Magnolia both abused Inlet. Flagberg had similar multi-attacking to Magnolia. Magnolia did not really start its turn until turn 4. However, Flagberg starts turn on turn 3. You know what I mean? So they kind of both had their ups and downs. I think for the long game, Magnolia was just better, but for the shorter game, Flagberg was the better deck, right? So personally, and even then, like even during that time, there were Flagberg tops. I actually would have been one of them, but our team got DQ'd. It is what it is. But you know, like I did really well too in my rounds playing Flagberg, and we would have had another top on the Flagberg list. But anyway, I brought the deck knowing it's good, and it was good then. And then with Magnolia being hit, it only, in my opinion, it got better because nothing really stops it except Tamaria. Tamaria's like the only deck that you have to really consider yourself. And that's actually why I was a little scared to bring it. I was scared there might be some Tamaria players. I was also scared that the early game might not be enough and that the late game might be too heavy because of this deck right here. So I actually brought PBO because PBO has an insanely good early game and not so much a good late game. So I prioritized the early game, but sadly I never saw my pieces and I saw OT every game. So I just couldn't do anything every game I played. Like every game I just got stomped by either an overtrigger or just my mulligans were awful. It was one of two. Yeah, Tamaria is really good into Flagberg because Tamaria shuts down Tamaria shuts down an attacker by Soul Blasting, denying the 10k. It pretty much slows down your entire turn. All your restands are 3ks or 2ks or nothing or 0 unless you're under Persona, and even under Persona now they're just poking for 5k guards essentially. So Tamaria was one of the few decks that's actually very good into Flagberg, but no one brought it, so it didn't matter. But it was my biggest concern taking Flagberg was I really didn't want to see Tamaria because that's actually a really hard matchup. Now I will say Flagberg into Gravidia is insanely good. They both do the same thing, become that good. Flagberg's been good. It's the thing about it, Flagberg Pure or Flagberg Order, whatever you decide, it's the fact that you're attacking 3 to 5 times a turn, drawing like 4 extra cards, retiring your opponent's board, having a guard restrict, all that stuff combined makes, in my opinion, a really good deck. The resources aren't too terrible, and if you're a really good Flagbeard player, you have no issues facing stuff like Prison. You know how to play that matchup really well, and it's just overall just very oppressive. Also, FYI, you can actually OTK on your first ride. It's actually very possible. It requires your opponent not hitting defenses, but it kind of almost plays an Excel deck, where if your opponent goes, oh, no defense, oh, no defense, oh, I guess that's game. Keep in mind, Elver just has less shield, so usually those little pokes, while they're good, they eventually have to make a decision, and usually that's where it's hard, is the decision tree of how you face Flagberg. Do you take the rears and guard the van, or do you guard the van and do you guard the van and take the rears, or do you guard the rears and take the van? And making that decision is really hard sometimes, especially depending on the damage you're at and kind of what you're doing and how your hand is. And sometimes that will just carry over the game. Sometimes you're forced to take the rears and guard the van, but that means you're discarding 3 cards. Or if you do it the other way, you take the vanguard and they go crit and you die. So because of your opponent's constantly in that pressured situation of what the heck do I do, it kind of puts you in bad situations. And sometimes opponents just can't deal with it if they're holding 3s and 4s in their hand and they just have to say no guard and they die. So the deck just never stops going. It is a little piece reliant, but it's a very aggressive deck. And like I said, it's not restricted to anything except a grade 3 for the inlet. But you can actually put the grade 2s down and swing 5 times in that turn. It's CB heavy, but you can do it. It's 3 counter blasts, but you can pop off. And if your opponent doesn't have a defense, sucks to be you know. So deck's really good, and it's easy OTK. It's just very aggressive deck. Shreds through hand, also shreds through hand like insane. You have no issues with, you know, like shredding through people's hands. You know, 3-card guard restrict is still a 3-card guard restrict. But yeah, so this makes sense. Again, as I mentioned before I move on to something else, really good matchup into Gravidia. So both these decks do essentially the same thing. They both say I retire your board and I attack and I have pressure and you have to guard me, right? So, but the difference is that this deck has more normal units. So when this deck retires stuff from this deck, that's a problem. Gravidia can't revive its stuff. Flagberg can. Gravidia retires, and it will retire Flagberg's board, but it can get it back. Flagberg attacks 5 times. Gravidia attacks 3 times. They both draw almost the same amount of cards. Flagberg on Counterblast draws a card. Inlet draws a card. Gravidia says on place, draw 2 cards, right? So essentially, they have the same economy going. The difference is that this deck's economy is slightly better. Now, the other difference is that this deck has slightly higher pressure for hitting crits for games. So it's kind of just a give or take. However, I think in the end, this deck performs better. If we don't talk about double trigger bullshit, I think this deck should perform better. Like, outperform this deck. But, you know, OTs happen. I think OT is the only thing that makes a difference between these 2 decks. Obviously, this OT is better, and it's just more game-changing than this overtrigger. However, you can put 100 million on a restander and restand that, and force your opponent to have to guard with 2 perfect guards, maybe even 3. So, yeah. But anyway, that's Flaggy. That's Flaggyberg. Flaggyberg's been a good deck for a while. It'll probably continue to be good. I don't know how it's going to perform in set 6. I'm not going to lie. I have no idea what set 6 is like. But it has been performing in Japan. But they have the promos, so hard to say. So here we have the Rosemont Top 8 V Premium. And again, we have 5 Maidens, 1 Lupina Melody, and 2 Guri. So before you guys say, what is Pawn doing in this deck? It's not Pawn. It's Sonata. It's Sonata and Karu. I just want to make that clear because so many people have been like, well, how do you play Pawn in Lupina? You don't play Pawn at all. Pawn is not the main deck, is not the side card. It's a Lupina deck with a Sonata and Karu engine. It's something that I talked about this deck like a year and a half ago. I made a whole deck list about it. I was like, hey, you can play Lupina, but with super high columns. Here you go. So I actually knew this deck pretty well. So I was one of these Maiden people, yay! And then I faced like majority of top 8. Like I faced all of top. If you include the Lupina Melody guy, I faced all the top 8 people except 1 Gurgit and I think 1 or 2 Steam. So it might have been 3 players I didn't face out of top 8. I was in top tables literally starting like round 4 and on. I never left top 8 tables. I was just there the entire time. So I slowly just kept facing the other undefeated players and who happened to also be in top 8. It was pretty funny. But yeah, so this is the results. Okay, so top 4 was again Maidens and some more Maidens and Paul playing Gurgit and Lupina making it through because Lupina lost to me. I mean, sorry, I lost to Lupina, so Lupina ended up, you know, going for top 4 at this point. Very sad and unfortunate loss, but the person was really nice. So here we have David Smart. David Smart is actually, I don't know if people know who David Smart is. I know who David Smart is because I'm friends with Noman. You keep friendly firing at BCS. It's very unfortunate, but sometimes it happens. But yeah, I don't know if you guys know who David Smart is, but David Smart is like the third teammate on Noman's team usually, and he's like from what I haven't faced him, and I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just don't know. But from what Noman says is that David Smart is like an insanely god tier player. That he's like miles better than him and Andrew. Like I've never faced him. I'm assuming we have the results right here, so clearly he's a good player. But he got first place. I remember talking to him throughout the day, be like, hey, how you doing? I remember he had like one loss and then he just went undefeated after that, so he had like his things. I don't remember who this is though, and I don't remember. I think this is the other Gurgit player, and then there's Dustin, which is the top 4 I faced. But overall, kind of a similar thing. We had a lot of players, and I saw. Let me just let you guys know that there was a lot of Aquaforce players, a lot of Overword players, and I think a lot of 7 Seas players. And it's kind of crazy that through all of that, this is what the pie chart ended up looking like. Isn't that kind of crazy? So here's Rosemont's premium chart. So looking for the Dredjewel. Dredjewel's so good. I'm so excited for Dredjewel. I've actually been like really looking into it, and I'm really excited. So here's Rosemont's premium Narukami doing its thing as per usual. And we have the Aquaforce. Yes, we did have a deleter make it through. I remember they were talking about it because I was playing standard, and the premium people were saying how there's a Link Joker going pretty much undefeated. He was going undefeated for a while, and then we got the golds, and then yeah. So yeah, so I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Link Joker is not a bad deck. I won't say it's a good deck to take, and I will say that if you know the matchup, it's probably easier for you, but the deck actually isn't bad. This is the second time maybe even the third time we're seeing a Link Joker deleter deck make it through for top 8, but they keep dying in top 8. At least as far as I know, they keep dying in top 8. Ty Smith faced this guy, if I remember correctly. Obviously he won because he went undefeated. If I remember correctly, I think pretty sure he faced him. So that was pretty interesting. And then let's go ahead and see our top 4. Nope, that's Germany. That is Germany. Here we go. So here we have the top 4 Rosemont premium stuff. Again, honestly, this just isn't surprising. I know people are surprised by Armor Break Dragon, but it's still just Narukami. Yeah, so I know 2 players. Actually, I technically know the names of all 4, but the people I actually like know is like the first 2, which is Jaime and Ty. That match was pretty interesting to watch. They were just like having a good time at talking. Did you see the new Burger Boat support? I did see the new Burger Boat support. I'm really excited for it. Ty asked me to put Armor Break there. Yes, I know he did because he was telling me about it. He was like on his phone like this, and he was like, oh my god, Orange, I need to tell Fuzzy to put Armor Break on the chart. I gotta tell him to put it on the chart because it's Armor Break. So because Armor Break OP. Yeah, so Commander Jaime took it all. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember how Swiss rounds went, but he was pretty much undefeated. I was so hyped just to see its Eraz. Yeah, I mean, so the tech was to kill Ripples, you know, and it worked like all day. Because I knew about Ty Smith's deck, I think 2 weeks prior to the event. Might even be 3. I can't remember exactly when he showed it to me, and I saw the Armor Break and I'm like, that makes sense. Ripples go burr. And he was like, yes, I'm so excited for the spice. So I knew Ty was gonna take this, and I actually had a pretty good feeling that Ty was gonna do pretty well. I didn't know he was gonna do this well, but I was expecting him to at least top 8, because he was coming to me saying like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna do that well, and I'm like, dude, you're taking Narukami, which is a clan, you know, you're putting in a tech that works literally against meta, and you're probably just gonna win. You're just gonna win. Go away. And then he won. So his first loss was to Jaime, and if I remember, I watched this game. I was kind of on and off watching. I was talking to people while a lot of this game was happening, but Jaime hit an OT all the way at the end. I don't think it would have mattered, but he did hit the overtrigger like at the very, very end, and I think Ty asked for a 2 to pass out of a triple drive, and yeah, he hit the 2 to pass, so it was just GG after that. But overall, they had a really fun time. They played it out really funly. I think they were just having just kind of like a bonding thing happen. Like, I don't even think they were playing for first place. I think they were just playing. Like, it was just so wholesome to look. They were just having a good time. But anyway, so yeah, Jaime's amazing. Obviously, you know, Ripples is like, not Ripples, sorry, Aquaforce is like his main clan. When he literally, I think like that morning, I was asking what he was taking. He was like, come on. What do you think I'm taking? It's of course Aquaforce in meta right now. Why wouldn't I take Aquaforce? You know, and he's a really good Aquaforce player, so this makes sense. And then obviously we still have Narukami here, and again Ripples dominating as per usual. So just the usual big 3 doing big 3 things. It was OT that decided. I do not know if Overtrigger decided that particular match, so I'm not gonna say it did because I'm not sure. I think if it would have been a regular trigger, it would have been the same kind of situation, if that makes sense. Like, it would have changed anything. So here's this. And look, it's Flaggy Burke. There he is. But yeah, I've been looking into these as well. I've been keeping an eye on all these. And look how, honestly, this looks pretty diverse. I'm not gonna lie. This looks so diverse. Bugs is already doing well, but Bugs got stopped by Mystery Flare, Ripples, and Narukami. And with those three pretty much being out or potentially gone, I think Bugs can roam free pretty well as pure or as Flagbrick or as machining. I think all three versions are really good, so I don't see why it wouldn't be doing well. So Ghidorah will just be coming back, and I think Wing Choker is already doing well right now, but because of decks like Mystery Flare and Ripples High, Highlander probably won't be touched either. I don't expect Highlander to be touched. I think a lot of people are really worried about Highlander, but I'm gonna be real with you guys, the deck is pretty slow. It's nuts. It's nuts, but it's slow. Like, you still need to get to stride. But that, guys, peace out. Stay awesome, stay great, stay healthy. Don't slam your hand into a wall. Even if you're tripping, just don't do it. But other than that, guys, stay awesome, stay great, and until next time, bye.